Hello and welcome back to another out of spec detailing video here from Clear Detailing in Northern Colorado. Next to me here is our brand new Kia EV9 land trim. And in today's video, we're going to be doing a full build quality analysis like we do with all of the vehicles here on the channel. Going through the panel gaps, the fit and finish, the materials, jumping inside, looking how everything feels compared to other competitors in the EV space, and see how the Kia EV9 stacks up. Welcome back, let's jump into it. Now when you think of Kia, what comes to mind? Probably something like economical and affordable, but interesting styling, especially for the money. That has all changed with the EV9. The EV9 has made the most expensive Kia ever. And the EV9 can go all the way up really to about $80,000. Now, in the market of electric three-row SUVs, this stops and ends where other vehicles really begin. Something like the Rivian R1S dual motor, something like the Tesla Model X, something like the Mercedes EQS, and I'm missing one there. Can't place my finger on exactly what it is. We're going to have this space probably grow quite a bit in the future here. Of course, we have the Lucid Gravity that is not yet released, but that promises to be a very interesting three-row SUV with huge range, great charging, lots of other benefits. But I want to really compare the EV9 to all of those. Now, this is the land trim. This sits right below the GT line, but this particular vehicle retails right at $72,000. Now, I'll be the first to tell you that is a lot of money for a Kia, but there's a lot of really cool tech that this has in it that I think almost does validate that price point. What really validates it though is the leasing one of these. Now, as of recent, we just leased this thing, and the lease deals, especially here in Colorado, are quite crazy. So we got this car from Kia of Fort Collins. We out of spec have kind of partnered with them, and they treat our viewers extremely well, of course, as they treat us. But the lease deal on something like this $72,000 EV9 land is $300 a month with $3,000 out of pocket, 2 years, 20,000 miles. It's a lot of bang for your buck, if you ask me. That's including all taxes and fees, but do know this is only for Colorado residents. But it's pretty impressive. You can get a three-row SUV, a dual motor setup, a 100 kilowatt hour battery pack for $300 a month. Pretty impressive, as if you ask me. But this build quality analysis, we're going to start on the exterior. I want to look how this thing's screwed together. We had previously done this with the GT line. I believe that one was a press vehicle though. It was months and months and months ago now, but this is of course a consumer version. This is one that I picked up straight from the dealership. They didn't prep it any different. I just said, I want that one. Boom, here you go. Here's your car. So we're going to start on the exterior, just walk around the car, see how everything feels. Does it validate that $72,000 price point? I think it'll be interesting to see what you guys think. So definitely let me know in the comment section below. I think the interior is the most interesting. In my opinion, this is the most practical three-row EV in the market. Definitely feels a lot bigger inside than a Rivian R1S, but definitely the materials are not even close to the quality of a Rivian R1S, even their base model. So it'll be interesting to compare and contrast there. But let's start on the exterior, walk around this car, and see how it's screwed together. So the land trim has quite a few different options on it, from the wind and light variants. First off, the biggest notice, the 3-spoke wheels. What do you guys think of these? Can't tell if I'm the largest fan of them or not the biggest fan of them. They're starting to grow on me, but they kind of look weird at certain angles. I don't know. These are a 20-inch wheel, so if you get a GT line, bumps up the wheel size to a 21. Ride comfort's a little bit different. So I think a lot of people prefer to go down to a 20, have a little bit more rubber there. And then the other really distincting feature here on the land is having all the piano gloss black. Now for me as a professional detailer, not a huge fan of that, but let's go through this and just do our build quality analysis. One of the first things is these headlights. These are absolutely sick. I think this is one of the coolest things ever, but there are some downsides. So as you can see here, this lighting pattern, these actually come through the paint. But the interesting thing here is I'm not sure this is actually paint because this is basically like a big piece of acrylic. You can see it here, how there's kind of gloss black here, but it's behind this kind of brittle plastic. Now, one of the biggest issues that I've been seeing on the Kia forums is that people are cracking these from rocks. People have been putting paint protection film on this and it's still cracking. So I'm curious to see how long this is going to last on the EV9, because if that becomes too big of an issue for Kia, they may X-nay it. Now, the interesting thing is if you get a matte finish one, it comes with normal plastic like the bumper, so I don't think you're going to risk cracking it quite as much. But this headlight design is absolutely wild. Having these each individual headlights here is really cool. The weird thing here is you have downloadable content to change this design, which is just weird to me. I think it's $250. You just paid 72 grand for this car, and Kia wants another 250 bucks to have different lighting designs. That to me is a no-go. But let's just start off here looking at the hood. We'll talk through some other design features here as we go. This is quite a large hood, and it is interesting when you're driving this car, the slope that it has. Very different from R1S that is basically a big box. You can really place the front end of an R1S quite well, or this thing feels like the hood goes miles and miles down the road. But just looking here at the panel gap, looks absolutely fantastic all the way around here. The headlight, of course, a huge headlight design. Rubber gasket in here fits pretty darn perfectly. Going down here, this is all looking quite good if you ask me. What we're looking for here is panel gap size and panel gap consistency. So for example, I have this little tool here with different millimeter readings on it. So if I stick this in here, that's right at about 3.5 millimeters. And if I come up here, that's right about 3.5 millimeters, maybe a little bit more. So good consistency there to there. Now, I just recently watched a documentary on Singer, and the thing I love about Singer, if you're a Porsche enthusiast, I know I'm going off a tangent here, but they get every single edge on their vehicle to be 4 millimeters. So that's what they use, and I'd like to see more car companies use that, if not tighter tolerances. But just going around here, you can see the tolerances all the way around the hood here, looking very even. Very awesome to see there. How about this side of the hood? Super flush all the way down. Let's take a little reading here. Basically exactly the same. Basically exactly the same. So good props to Kia there for a well-built hood. I know this sounds like a crazy thing. Rivian R1S very much struggles with this. They have a powered front trunk, or frunk, I guess, and I see a lot of those come in and they're very warped, they don't sit quite right, and they do move over time. This plastic, I'm gonna just call this acrylic. That's my best bet of what this is here. It all fits nice and flush here with the headlight. How about the other side? Looks exactly the same. Really nice tight tolerances there, especially all of this contrasting trim here. I do think it looks quite nice. Now, the big difference with the GT line, you have a lot more gloss black in this particular area, basically splitting up all of the color going through. Speaking of color, if you're interested, this is iceberg green metallic, a very rare color for the EV9. I think I've seen 1 or 2 in this particular color. I absolutely love it. I think it looks really nice. Moving here to the front bumper kind of fascia here into the arches, fits absolutely perfect down there. Nice tight tolerances. Look how nice these tolerances are here all the way through. Even the bumper, perfectly smooth. Nice tight tolerance all the way down here. Looks really good until you get to the door. Definitely opens up a bit, but it seems to be the same all the way through here. Let's get a quick measurement. Right at 4. Right at 4. Nice tolerances there. Really like to see that. I don't see anything in the front that stands out to me weird whatsoever. Moving on to the mirrors here, one of the things you do get with the land trim is color matched versus the GT line gets black ones. Now, I will say, I just did a paint inspection on this. If you might notice here, completely does not match. So that's a little bit unfortunate. If you're more interested in going through all the issues that I have with this car and its paint, definitely watch the video that went up before this. The mirrors are quite nice. Nice lighting around here. All the tolerances feel really nice in here. Feels like a nice sturdy mirror. One thing I will tell you is not sturdy though is the actual glass. Going down the road, this thing is sitting there rattling. That's going to be a warranty thing that I'm going to take into Kia. So not thrilled with that, but that's the first thing that I've really noted on the exterior of the vehicle that could use some improvement. All the tolerances down here, this basically huge side skirt, honestly looks absolutely perfect how it fits on the body there. Super impressive. Even this huge molding all the way up here looks absolutely perfect. I'm pretty darn thrilled with that. Now the handles here are pretty interesting. They are retractable, so this is in their out position so you can grab them. A really nice feeling handle. Way better than Mercedes EQ line. This definitely feels a lot more premium, very mechanical feel, but feels very solid, especially closing the door there. So really like that. The doors here, absolutely flush. Body lines match up. Honestly, I have zero complaints down here. This all looks almost perfect to me. Even coming in here to the B-pillar area, can see how tight all of these tolerances are in here. If I'm nitpicking, this one's slightly higher than this one here. Definitely a little bit different there. Down here on this window trim, very nice and smooth there. Over here, I am noticing a little bit of discrepancy. You can see the door actually sits a little bit higher than this one. The strange thing to me, this body line matches up absolutely perfect there. Let's check the tolerances here, just out of curiosity. It's a little bit hard to do these sometime. I'm going to say that's somewhere around 4-ish. The problem is I have to put it in a little bit farther, somewhere around 4. Let's check down here. A little bit over 4, so a little bit larger on that one, but honestly looks pretty darn good. Look how flush this bumper sits with the rest of the body. Super impressive stuff going on here. Again, this molding all the way around looks like it fits very nice, especially down here as well. Man, honestly, pretty darn impressed, Kia. The exterior, really well put together. Really wish their paint was as nice as their fit and finish here so far. Taillights back here are really cool. I think this thing just has a great boxy view from back here. That's my personal opinion. Some people may hate it. Totally understand that, but I think it does look quite sharp, especially with these kind of, I don't know, I always think these kind of look like a paw of some sort. I don't know. They look really cool at night, in my opinion. Up here, we have quite a large spoiler and some interesting stuff going on here. First thing that I love, no wiper that you can actually see. It's actually tucked up under here. It's a little hard to see under there, but that's pretty darn cool. We also have a camera here. This is actually for a digital rear view mirror. Cybertruck needs this. Sorry, just had to say that. But moving into the taillights here, tolerances look pretty darn good. I will say this one looks quite large here. Let's go with our larger side. Yeah, right about 5 millimeters. Let's compare that to this side. This side's actually a little bit bigger, so I'd like to see that tightened up a little bit. Honestly, looks pretty decent. No large complaints there other than those don't match perfectly. How does this fit? Definitely the trunk sits in a little bit more than I'd like to see on that side. This side actually fits pretty good, so probably can do some fidgeting inside. This is how it was delivered to me. The bumper back here, nice, simple design, very tight tolerances here, especially in your reflector lights, here in your tow hood hitch area, and even this bumper. I mean, man, their tolerances are pretty impressive. One thing I really do not like about this is this kind of ribbed design here. Kind of a pain in the butt to clean, definitely going to be a pain in the butt to polish. Not sure I'm the largest fan of that, but moving on. Now we come over here to the charge port. Now, in my opinion, especially if you have signed up with Tesla, charge port's on the wrong side. Hyundai recently just released the Ioniq 5, the refresh with the NAC port in it, but it's still on the same side, so it makes getting into a supercharger quite annoying. That's my opinion. Disagree with me, that's totally fine. So if I press this, door opens up nice and smooth. Not overly complicated mechanical device there, but I'm not the largest fan of powered charge port doors. For me, it just seems like a way for them to fail. This is very cool here. You have a charge indicator. I do not full charge my car. It's sitting at like 80%. It was full charged when we picked it up from the dealership. I've been trying to drain it here. One thing that I actually really like about this is their CCS port here. On the EV6, you have this very cheap little thing that you're supposed to do and just dangle it all over your paint, which I don't love. This one actually stays in place. So I think that's better. Definitely not as nice as BMW, but really interesting there. We do have a light at night, which is cool. So that's all good and well. Smooth actuation there, closes very nicely. I want to just quickly open up the trunk here, see how this feels. It's really interesting with Kia. This is an option to have it move fast or slow. Not sure why that's an option, but okay, that's kind of cool. Let's see how this closes down. Pretty satisfying close there. Not bad whatsoever. All the molding here looks really smooth all the way down. How's this side look here? Definitely a lot better on this side, so I know they can get that tolerance here a little bit better on the other side. Doors here all fit flush. Just looking here, these tolerances on the bumpers, dang, those are next level. Really nice, especially with the wheel arches here. Really, really nice. This one here definitely looks like it has a little bit more of a kind of opening, if you will, a little bit more of a gap. You can see side to side there. So definitely not perfect. That's the first one I've seen that's like not exactly ideal, but pretty darn decent if you ask me. Here, same thing, very tight tolerances, very tight tolerances. Look at the precision here. Kia, holy smokes. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. That's what I love to see. Even up here, B-pillar looking pretty good. This one, no, they fit perfectly good. Wow. Really impressed there so far. Door handles again present on this side as well. Man, okay. Kia, blown away. Really nice job. Few little things that I would change here, but honestly, pretty darn impressive. I mean, first Rivian R1Ss that started coming out had a lot more issues than this. I'll be curious to see how this car ages a bit. I know Rivian has really taken a lot of my advice from this and have really started to fix quite a bit of these production issues where their hoods are sinking, you know, plastic moldings aren't fitting right. The plastics on this thing are what really blow me away, and just like these tight tolerances in here, just love that. So far I'd give this thing 9.5 out of 10. I would say the biggest issue was the rear trunk not perfectly aligned and a little bit over there on the B-pillar, but man, very impressive. Now jumping into the interior here, I think this is where a lot of people that are used to higher end vehicles, Mercedes, Audi, BMW, that type of vibe, are going to struggle a little bit with the interior. I don't think the interior here is premium really whatsoever. I think it's nice. I think it's laid out well, but it doesn't scream premium to me. You compare the interior to an R1S. R1S is leagues ahead of this. Now I think something like a Model X, the materials feel better, but are not really clipped in quite as well. You hear a lot of rattles, especially in Model S and X over time. Mercedes EQ, it's been a little interesting. I haven't been the biggest fan of their latest line of electric vehicles. Lots of creaks and things like that, but they look definitely nicer than the EV9 here. I think what Kia did is went the more practical aspect. I mean, you're sitting on a 100 kilowatt hour battery pack. This is a very expensive car for them to produce, or so I assume. And really a lot of the cheapness fell into the interior. Now that's not to say that the interior isn't nice. It's a nice place to be, but all the touch points aren't the highest quality. So let's start over here on the door panel. Up here, somewhat soft touch, but you can definitely feel, yeah, it's just a little bit kind of plasticky feeling-ish. I'm not the biggest fan of that. All the way down here, same material. What I do like in the EV9 is they went away from gloss black. They're like, everybody complains about piano black. Here you go. You have, you know, gloss gray. Still shows scratches, still shows fingerprints, but I do think it's a little nice. Do I think it'd look nicer in gloss black? Yes. Do I think it's going to scratch easier in gloss black and show more fingerprints? Yes. So little pro and con there. You have heated, cooled seats here in the front and the rear, which is absolutely awesome. We'll touch back there when we get there. Can see some ambient lighting coming through. This thing actually has pretty cool ambient lighting at night. You can see some of it here, down here in the footwell, down here on the dash, and kind of the cup holder area there. It actually looks quite nice, and even the Kia emblem on the actual steering wheel lights up, which is pretty darn cool. Moving down here to kind of the armrest, feels okay. I'm not the largest fan of EV9 materials just in general. So do apologize if I sound a little critical on the interior here, but I really don't feel it's premium. It's nice, but not premium. Here you have some cloth here. I do like having different accents like that. Then as we move down the door, all hard plastics. This is something that a $40,000 Model 3 gets right. They use all vegan leather down here. You know, every single piece of plastic is gone out of the interior. Even areas like this, your kind of B-pillar area here, that is all kind of soft touch, vegan leather. And this is just very cheap plastic all the way down here. This stuff's going to scratch up and it just doesn't feel very nice. I know you're not sitting here touching this, but it's just things to consider if you're looking to purchase an EV9. I would say areas like that, you really start to feel the cheapness in their plastics. Now this one does come with the Meridian sound system. Not blown away with it. I would say it's good, but it's not like, oh wow, Meridian, you expect it to be really nice. I would say it's okay. It's not incredible to say the least, but you do have some nice kind of, well, these are probably plastic. Yeah, these are plastic coated with something that looks like aluminum here. Yeah, definitely not metal up there. So that's something you're gonna get in like a Mercedes or a Mercedes. I don't know. Seems pretty interesting to me there. Ooh, the other car that I just thought about, EX90 that's coming out. That's the other 3-row. That thing I think will feel a lot more premium inside, but again, gonna be much more expensive here than the EV9. So starting off here on the seats, first off, best headrests in the game. These are so comfortable. I don't know how they came up with this design. I think they look really cool, how they're kind of like scalloped up, but you have this kind of mesh feeling over it and a memory foam kind of pad in here and pad around the outside. I think they're absolutely fantastic. Moving down to the seats, I do like the stitching here on the land trim. The only thing I'm going to say about their material is that it's kind of hard. It's not, this is definitely not real leather, it's synthetic, but it's not soft and plush. So you do feel these like in your back or even on your butt when you're sitting in here. I'm not the biggest fan of the leather-ish. I say leather, it's vegan material or synthetic material here. I'm not the biggest fan of it, especially in GT line. It almost feels oily to me is the only way I can describe it, but that's just my opinion. Here on the dash, more kind of hard plastics. These are somewhat soft touch, but yeah, not like super blown away with those. I mean, it's nice, but you know, like Model X dashboard definitely feels a lot more premium. You have a lot of plastic up here, especially in the grill area. There's your indicator when your high voltage battery is charging your 12 volt. Not sure why Kia wants you to know that, but hey, you know it. So let me jump here into the front. And actually quite a nice roomy space in here. Plenty of leg room up here. I mean, the seat's not even all the way back, but lots of cool stuff in here when you get to really the tech side of it. But here in our center console, we have this interesting implementation. Don't love this. It feels pretty cheap in all honesty, but this is kind of funny and cool, I would say. Boom, cup holder. Now the only thing I see happening here as a professional detailer, coffee's gonna get spilled, smoothies, all that stuff. I guarantee you like 90% of EV9s, these are gonna be stuck because it's all coated in sugar and coffee down there, and it's just gonna be either left open or left closed. So that's not ideal, but yeah, it's okay. I wouldn't say it's the best thing in the world. Once you power up the car, let's see if we can do that here. It's gonna think a minute. Phone key, but I have my phone key. Not sure what it's doing. Maybe because I'm recording here. But the weird thing is these little buttons up here. Now they're not clicking right now. I think these are a terrible implementation. Just give me hard buttons like these. These are really cool to just be able to quickly go temp up, temp down, different modes here on the sides. I think that's all great. This is a great clicky volume knob here, nice centrally located. So it's good to see they have a few buttons, but it's not overly complicated. We have pretty simple vents here. They look nice and even in the dash. I think it's a decent layout. Again, it doesn't look fancy to me. It doesn't look quite crazy, but yeah, it is a nice place to be. Down here, we have a fingerprint reader. I haven't figured out when and why you would use this, to be honest, quite yet. I need to play around with this car a little bit more to understand that. We have some gray buttons here that actually feel quite nice. We also have wireless phone heating here and the world's tiniest center console, especially in a huge car. I mean, it is absolutely minuscule. Now down here you have this large storage area. I personally am a bigger fan of how this is designed than Rivian. I don't like to have this open space here. I like a cockpit. That's my personal preference. Moving over here to the steering wheel. Big complaint here. This, your drive shift indicator. Absolutely hate the location of this. It seems like an afterthought to me. My knee does sometimes hit this, so if you have quite long legs, that could be an issue. You need to go sit in one, make sure you actually fit. The other thing that I really don't like, start stop button. Why do you need that in an EV? Just get in and go. Tesla does it the best. I'm sorry, but they absolutely do. So let me jump over to the driver's side. Let's quickly talk about the steering wheel. Coming to the driver's side now, and this is where things get a little strange for me. What the heck are you supposed to do with this? And here's the weird thing. You would expect, okay, so you can kind of see it has this like little kick out here. You would want to press that, and then the seat starts moving. Ah, okay. So this is full relax mode, I guess. Okay, that's pretty strange. But I'm going to hit my memory seat back here, and it's going to move back. Huh, so that's kind of a chill mode. This does not have the $2,000 relaxation pack, which I'm not sure exactly how that's different. But then you have this little thing that takes a mild century to come out, and I'm not sure how you actually use this while driving. Maybe you're not supposed to, but it just seems a little weird to me. I don't know. That's my personal opinion. On this side, you have a few more options here on the door card. Heated steering wheel, heated, ventilated seat, memory 1, memory 2, of course, mirrors over here. These all feel decently nice and clicky. Again, not gloss piano black, which is awesome to see. You have some switchgear over here, electric charge port, 2 times for the front, rear, traction control, always traction control off, right guys? And then your parking brake. The steering wheel here is a telescoping steering wheel. I was going to say mirror, I'm not sure why, but that moves in and out. That's nice, especially compared to the lower end trims that are all manual. So let me jump in here, and it's a pretty nice place to be. Now, steering wheel, in my opinion, when you first get in this car, a little overwhelming, especially coming from Tesla. Lots of buttons, lots of different things. So cruise control over here, up and down on that. This changes your distance. This over here changes your center menu. Now I can't turn on my phone because it'll stop the recording because of wireless Apple CarPlay, which this does have, which my EV6 does not, which is wired, which is annoying, especially in 2 different Kias nonetheless. Now all of this feels actually extremely nice. I love all of these very clicky, notchy, very knurled button here. This is your HDA assist. Highway driving assist in this, guys, should not be slept on. It's very impressive, but has one massive safety issue. In the case of our colleague Jordan was driving an EV9 on the press launch down a windy road. He left it on there because it has a fatal flaw where it does not tell you when it turns off basically your driving aids. It'll just swerve into the other lane, or not swerve, it'll just stop steering, which is a little disconcerting. Here you have different modes. These are 2 buttons that you can program to do different things. So I have mine programmed to bring up the EV menu over here on the screen. Now again, I wish I could power this up, but you do have this little display here for your climate control, which is impossible to see from here because if you sit in my driving position, it's completely covered by the steering wheel. So it seems like a little bit of an afterthought. It's okay. It's not the nicest. Now, I'm not going to deep dive the software. That's not really my department. I've talked about it before. I'll quickly give you my thoughts here. It's not offensive, but it's not good, especially coming from Tesla. My Model 3 Performance software in there is incredible. This is okay. It does have some very cool functionality and different things. We'll cover that more on out of spec reviews, but yeah, in all honesty, the front here is really nice, very comfortable, very good sight out the front. But again, that hood kind of swooping down, definitely can't really place the front. Feels like it ends there, but keeps going for like another foot and a half. So that's a little bit tricky. Headliner in the Land is this kind of tweed color, I guess you could call it. And this is really strange. In the front here, this is manual, but the back one is actually powered. it's not working right now because the car's not in accessory mode, but it's powered on that one. The cool thing here that this is, I guess you could say, better than R1S. First off, you can actually cover these. I know R1S Ascend, I believe it is now, Ascent, whatever it is. Sorry, skipping my mind, has the electrochromatic glass. I think that's pretty cool, but I think there's no better implementation for having kids, dogs, trying to keep the cabin cool than just proper normal shades. The other nice thing about this is you can actually use the sunroof. Something like Model X, R1S, you cannot do that in. So I do think that's pretty nice. Here we have some really interesting feeling buttons for your lights. No click to them, no feedback or anything like that. Those are completely fine. This again is the digital rear view mirror. Cybertruck engineers, you should have that, but really pretty darn cool. One thing that's really interesting here that we can show from the back as well is this little control that actually moves the seat forward, which is pretty darn cool. I think it's nice. You're getting in the second row and you're like, hey, I need you to move your seat up. Oh, I'll do it for you. Now, I think moms are going to hate this when the kids are big enough to reach this. That's going to be a constant annoyance, but you can cancel it on the side there. Now, Type-C ports over here. This thing has Type-C ports everywhere. And the other thing I love is having cup holders here. So you have two very large ones. This will easily fit all the gals' Stanley cups. Then you have two more Stanley cups going back here. So I think that's great. Let's move into the rear because that's my favorite part about the EV9. Back here is really why we purchased an EV9, because of our dogs. I have 3 golden retrievers. Our ID4 was getting a little bit small to go on any sort of trip with them. It's a little hard to have 3 full-size golden retrievers, take luggage with you, and have them still be comfortable. So this is very cool back here. We have 2 captain seats. Now, the interesting thing is you can't get captain seats in either, or you can't get a bench seat, apologize, in either the Land or GT line, but the lower trims get it. Why is that a thing, Kia? I don't know. This is the weird stuff that Kia does with just their specking of the car, which is really, really strange to me. One thing I absolutely love back here, I believe the Straight Pipes coined these, but this is the peasant blockers, as they call them, which I absolutely love. Not the nicest implementation, but hey, it still has them. Nice to have a little bit more shade back here. One thing I do notice though, as you can see, this literally leaves an impression in the material here, which is a little bit strange, but I like to keep those up, keep the cabin a little cooler, especially when we have the dogs. Best thing back here, heated and ventilated captain seats. That's freaking awesome. Even Mercedes EQS top trim doesn't have that. So really like that. Very sparse door back here. You do have, of course, water bottle pockets. Feels like exact same materials as up front. So one thing I always say in a lot of cars is it feels like you're sitting in first class in the front seat, economy, and then next to the toilet like you would be on an airplane. But I think the EV9 does a nice job of really having kind of the same feel throughout the cabin. So huge kudos there. Let's jump inside. And man, this is where you have plenty of space. So that seat is probably a little farther back, but again, the cool thing, let me just rotate this back. So I kind of put those exactly the same of where my driver's side would be, my driving position. Boom, still have plenty of legroom. That is not the case in the R1S, so huge perks there. One thing for dog owners, you have vents here, here, and in the back as well on the headliner, which definitely help with keeping the doggos, kids cool. I think these are really nice implementation instead of having them down here. Now, the reason this is so small up front in the center armrest is because of this thing. And I say thing because this is just kind of strange to me. You have this little tray here that pops out, and then if you push this, which it kind of pushes the whole thing back, you have a huge storage bin here. I don't know if I would really use this much. I mean, for kids, moms, this may be great to keep snacks, diapers, whatever it may be. Maybe we'll keep our dog leashes or poop bags or whatever in there. I don't really know. But again, still have ambient lighting here. You can see it down there on the floor, more in the door over here. At night, it really does look like a nice place to be. But then you see these headrests. Again, look how cool that is. They're just, I don't know, they look very futuristic and really, really like them. Again, you can see the Type-C ports back here. All feels nice. Again, materials to me, just not blown away in all honesty, but they do feel quite nice. GT line, again, does get a black headliner instead of this kind of light tweed color. We need to sign a petition that all manufacturers should be required to put in black headliners. Please, please, please. I would absolutely love that. But really, the space is all back here. Absolutely love it. And you can still put people in the third row. So let me jump out here because there are some interesting things here. So in the relaxation pack, this whole seat is all powered. So you had basically similar controls like you would have here on the seat, where this one is fully manual. So I don't really know. I think the automatic one is like too slow for moms, but this is also like a little bit complicated to use, but it's definitely better than R1S. So let me show you how you'd get in the third row. Press this button, boom, that goes all the way forward. That's pretty simple. Now here's the annoying thing, and I don't quite understand why they do this. Why does it lock it into this position? Go all the way back. So then you got to do one of these situations. You know, this is all with one hand you can do this, where Rivian's a little more challenging. Press this button, and then it actually holds that. So I like that implementation better than having to use this. And then if you press this guy here, it does exactly the same thing. I thought that was supposed to fold the backrest. What the heck? Is that just the same button? Why would you need two buttons? I thought that was literally going to fold it. Okay, that's strange, but you can see the seats are down. I can pop those open through the trunk so you guys can see what those actually look like. Now back here, you just have space and space and space for days. It is a little weird to find this guy here. It's a little off-centered, just my kind of opinion. So to put the third row up, you have this little strap, and then they don't stay until you do that. It's kind of weird. Like I want it back here. Little goofy. I'm not super into that. I mean, for those of you moms out there, that may be kind of annoying, or parents. So you kind of have to just like force that back in, but then it's kind of at a weird angle. So it's kind of a two-handed situation, which of course for me is a little challenging, but let me just show you what the third row actually looks like. Pretty decent space, cup holders, both sides, Type-C ports, both sides. Great for the kids, you know, hanging out with the iPads and everything. And actually a decent amount of space. So if I push this back, sorry, hard to do this in film. You do have a reasonable amount of space, and a normal human can actually fit back there. Now this is one thing I think a lot of parents are gonna hate. I sit here and do this all the time when I'm in the back seat. So these are a little strange, kind of wish they would stay, but I do understand that, because if you want to put the seat, you know, far back like that and have it stay, then you can maneuver this to be more even. But man, look at the recline you can get on that, and you can really sprawl out. Now with the relaxation pack, you get that kind of ankle stand there, I guess you would say, that the front driver's seat has. And then you can push this seat forward and really chill back here. So it's kind of nice to really ride in the back seat of the EV9. Back here is really where all the space is though. It is pretty freaking awesome. So let me put this seat down. Let me see. We can't with that. So let's do second row. There, we fold those flat. Let's fold that flat. Boom. So much space. I mean, literally space for days. So that's really cool. Wifey's got her recyclable, whatever, grocery bags that we have to pay for bags. Kind of a weird situation there. But yeah, this is all great back here, except for the plastics. This is all just feels cheap. Very, very cheap, especially in a $70,000 vehicle. Kind of expect it to be a little bit nicer. This mat came with the car. This is the cheapest feeling thing I've ever seen. And it also tells you don't fill your gas in here. Why you would do that in your 3-row electric vehicle, I'm not sure. Not a ton of space down here, but honestly, not too terribly bad. Last thing I want to show you here is the front trunk, which is nice that you can actually have this on the key fob here, which does make it a little bit more usable, but compared to an R1S, yikes. Literally no space. I mean, there's enough room for our charging cables up here, the vehicle to load. Then you could throw some shoes up here, but Rivian definitely has a lot more space in this area. So to me, it really seems like what's more important if you're comparing this to R1S as far as just pure space, do you really prioritize storage space, like having a huge front trunk and big underneath storage? or do you prefer having interior space for your kids, your dogs, and things like that? So that is the interior of the EV9. It's a nice place to be, but it really doesn't blow me away. And the materials, especially like lower panels here, aren't really the greatest. Now, one thing as far as NVH, I will say, noise, vibration, and harshness, this thing is extremely quiet, arguably way more quiet than an R1S. So that is a big benefit. Definitely quieter than a Model X, probably not as quiet as an EQS, but this is definitely up there as far as being very comfortable. Now, this is not on air suspension like R1S is. This is not a dedicated off-roader. I find the suspension to be good. It does kind of have this rear torque that it does. It's a little different, but honestly, it's a nice smooth ride and pretty nice, especially here on the 20s. So lots of different. It's hard to compare, you know, R1S or even Model X to this because it's kind of apple and orange. You really get some different features in here that you don't get in Model X or R1S, but then you have different features in those that you don't get in here. So I think it's a really interesting battle, I guess you'd say. Let me give you my final thoughts on build quality analysis on the EV9, and let's get this video wrapped up. So the $72,000 Kia EV9 land. What are my final thoughts? Honestly, blown away with the exterior fit and finish. Not blown away with the paint. Again, if you want to see that video, it's the one that went up right before this on the Out of Spec Detailing channel here. So definitely check that out if you're interested. I mean, the exterior feels really nice. It does feel like a premium car. I love the door handles on this, how they present, and a nice thud when you close it. That definitely inspires a premium feeling where, you know, Gen 2 R1S, they now have terrible door handles. Mercedes EQ has terrible door handles. Model X's door handles are annoying. So this in 3-row SUV wins the door handle and actually the feeling of closing the door. The doors are very heavy and beefy, so it is nice to feel that. I think the exterior, they absolutely knocked it out of the park in my opinion. On design, on panel gaps, fit and finish, feels like a very nice car. Where I think this car kind of cheaped out a bit is of course the interior. Not a huge fan of the materials, the plastics, the leathers. Honestly, I'm not saying I'm not a fan of the interior, it just, compared to the other cars, it's definitely let down a little bit. Now it is quiet, I would say quieter than probably the other ones besides Mercedes EQS SUV, but I definitely think it feels more plastic and definitely a less premium option for sure. Now, so far this has been completely rattle-free. We had a long-term loan EV9 that was still quiet, still very rattle-free. I will let you know how this does once we put some mileage on it. You know, 3 years, 30,000 miles on this thing. But yeah, so far pretty darn impressed with this car. Other than the paint, I wish some materials inside would be slightly nicer. Like if they had, you know, I think GT line takes it up a bit, but not enough to be like, wow, this is worth even more than this one, if you know what I mean. Especially when you consider R1S dual motor is like right there as far as price points. And in my opinion, a much, much, much nicer interior. So it's really an interesting car to me. It's very expensive, but it's very spacious, but it doesn't have a ton of storage space per se. So you really need to figure out what's most important to you there. I think leasing this, you're gonna be substantially cheaper than R1S, Model X, EQS, and then of course Gravity, EX90 coming out. It'll be interesting to see as the space gets more crowded, who goes for the EV9. So far I've been pretty happy with it. Not to mention 800-volt architecture eGMP platform here is mighty nice as far as charging, especially on the EV6 that I have. I'll be really anxious to drain this battery, charge it up, kind of learn how this thing charges and road trips. I think it'll be super fun. So honestly, pretty impressed with the EV9. The paint's pretty bad in my opinion. It's okay. It's not terrible, but it's not great. It's not something like even Rivian or Mercedes. I'd say it's definitely a step below that. Build quality on the exterior, really blown away. Actually, probably better than all of those other competitors. Interior just lacks a little for me. So that's my review of the Kia EV9 as far as build quality goes. Thanks so much for watching another Out of Spec Detailing video. We'll see you in the next one soon. Bye-bye.